Before every season on the Second Tier podcast, we do our league table predictions. It's an impossible task getting every one right, but it gives fans an idea of where we think their team will finish each season. Now, over the years, we've done pretty well with our predictions. Last season, we were essentially the only ones who correctly predicted the top two, and the season before that, we made the bold prediction of Luton to get promoted, which obviously came true, and we actually had the most accurate league table out of all other content creators based on the average league position. So we've done pretty well over the years. This wasn't one of our best years though. So let's take this opportunity to look back and see how badly wrong we got some things and what we also got right as well. Think of it as kind of a therapy session for me. I'm Dilks from the Second Tier, and this is how we did in our pre-season predictions. One thing I will say before we start is we do our predictions before the season starts, and therefore when the transfer window is still open. So a lot of the time we're guessing on what business is going to be done before the window closes. Just thought I'd get that last excuse in there. Right, let's begin. So we'll start with our bottom five, where we had Plymouth, Oxford and Watford to go down, and then Derby and Blackburn just to finish outside of the relegation zone. Of course, Plymouth finishing bottom, that looks like it's going to be the case as things stand, but more than likely they're going down, whatever the case. Some people did have Plymouth to stay up at the start of the season, which I just could not get my head around, with obviously Wayne Rooney being appointed and their squad looking much weaker than it was compared to, I guess, 6 months before the season started. So Plymouth were always in my bottom three when I was making my predictions. Oxford were as well, but of course they've done superbly well. At one point it did look like they'd be going down, and maybe they still will. There's a small chance that they could go down in the final 2 games of the season, but I never expected them to appoint Gary Rowett, because what a fantastic move that ended up being. Of course, Des Buckingham did all right initially, but then it all went a bit to pot with him. But getting a Rowett in has just turned out to be a masterstroke. But the most eye-catching one down there is, of course, Watford, who have just surpassed all expectations this season. We're not the only ones guilty of this. I think more people than not, more content creators like us, also had Watford to go down, or at least be in or around the bottom 3. And look, they've completely confounded those expectations, haven't they? Which just goes to show how ridiculously good a job Tom Cleverley has done this season, despite having very little backing, despite the club and the owners not seemingly going in the right direction. He's kind of single-handedly pulled this team in the right direction again. So that's another reason why, when I was doing my video last week of me ranking every manager in the Championship this season on the job they've done, I had Tom Cleverley second in that, because this just goes to show how ridiculous a job he's done. Derby 21st, yeah, that might be spot on as things stand. Currently sit 21st, and obviously me being a Derby fan will hope that is the case come the end of the season. So that one might be spot on. And then Blackburn 20th, yeah, another one which we got quite badly wrong. John Eustace just kind of doing a similar job to Tom Cleverley, really, completely confounding all those expectations as well. Did start to go a bit wrong when Eustace left, and then Ishmael came in, Valerian Ishmael, but he's managed to get them back on track now. So yeah, that's another one which we've got pretty badly wrong there. So yeah, a bit of a mixed start with our bottom 5 in our pre-season predictions. Let's move up now to our next 5 in our league table predictions, 15th to 19th, where we had Millwall, Cardiff, Hull, Portsmouth and Stoke. Bit of a mixed one here as well, Millwall obviously being the standout one there, which we got somewhat wrong. They were never in danger really of going this low. I just thought at the time their squad was looking a bit short on quality, and I wasn't too sure about Neil Harris as manager, but ultimately they've never really been in danger of finishing this low. They did have a bit of an off spell around the time that Neil Harris left the club, but otherwise they've been in the playoff conversation for most of the season, so well done to them. They have made us look wrong here. Cardiff next. This is an interesting one, because I remember getting a lot of stick at the time from Cardiff fans for having them this low. They finished mid-table the season before, and they made some signings in the summer, and so when we had them this low, Cardiff fans were saying, why on earth are we below Swansea for a start, which we'll get onto shortly. And now we're in a position where they're actually finishing much lower than that, more than likely going down. So yeah, whoops. So we didn't go harsh enough with Cardiff, which we really should have done. So yeah, funny how these things turn out, isn't it? Hull were next in 17th. Yeah, Hull obviously may be in danger of going down as things stand, but also may finish outside of the bottom three. So 17th, not a bad prediction on our behalf. Portsmouth 16th. Portsmouth are 16th as things stand. So this may be spot on from us. I always thought in the kind of final third of the season that Portsmouth wouldn't be going down, and I didn't think they'd be in a position where they would be close to going down, really. I think we even said at the time when we made our league table predictions that I anticipated Portsmouth possibly being in danger of going down for large parts of the season, but eventually getting things on track and then kind of nearly finishing mid-table, which is almost exactly what they've done, actually. And then Stoke 15th, yeah. Stoke currently 17th. Could be in a bit of danger heading into the final couple of games of the season, but that's still very unlikely. 15th, I was somewhat against because I just can't see Stoke ever escaping the Stoke mould, which is finishing lower mid-table for almost the rest of time now. And it looks like they're doing exactly that again. It was actually my co-host Justin who wanted them higher up the table. Otherwise, I would have had them a fair bit lower than 15th. So, yeah, we're somewhere in the middle with that particular one. But, yeah, actually, now that I've read them out loud, apart from Millwall, which was obviously a bad one, the next four, or Cardiff, I suppose, was a bad one as well, actually, because they look like they're going down now. But yeah, the Hull, Portsmouth, Stoke after that, pretty spot on. That's pretty much the case with our next five in our predictions as well. Of course, 10th to 14th, we had Swansea, QPR, Preston, West Brom, and Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, not too bad at all, actually, there, although a lot of these teams stink of mid-table energy, and it would always been a bit of a surprise if they didn't finish around this area of the table. Swansea in 14th, I mean, not too long ago, that was looking like that may very well be the case, but their recent run of form, where they've turned into the best team in the world, has seen them do better than 14th, so fair play to them for that. QPR in 13th, they're currently sat 15th. That may end up coming true there. They were at one point looking like they may be getting dragged into a relegation battle, but they look like they've sorted that out now, so well done to them. And I always thought with Marty Cifuentes that they would end up having a decent season, a better season than the one that they had last season anyway, so that looks like it's coming true. Preston 12th. Usually putting Preston 12th is the easiest way to start any league table prediction because that's almost always where they finish, but this season not turning out to be the case, and are sort of looking over their shoulder heading into these final two games of the season. So what usually would be one of the safest picks when it comes to our predictions actually is probably, in terms of the actual position to where they're going to finish, may actually be one of our poorer predictions. So there you go, funny how that works. So Preston, I think, this season are on course for their worst league finish since coming back to the Championship. Weird how it works, isn't it? West Brom 11th. Yeah, for a long time this looked like it may not be the case, and West Brom may actually finish in or around the playoffs, but of course in the last few weeks that has really not gone to plan. They're now 10th, and with their recent form, wouldn't surprise me if they finished 11th or maybe even lower than 11th. So yeah, not really gone well for West Brom. I think at the time we were very concerned about the financial problems at the club because they were put on a business plan by the EFL at the start of the season. I also had concerns about whether Carlos Corberán would last the season, and here we are, of course, left back in December. And that's kind of just upended their season, and it's ended up being a very unremarkable one for West Brom. And then finally, Sheffield Wednesday in 10th. I was excited about them with Danny Rule. I thought they had the potential to be a dark horse. Not really gone that way, has it? Chansiri has really messed up their season. 10th isn't going to be too far off where they finish, but it's almost certainly going to be lower than that where they actually finish in the end. But yeah, it feels like it could have been a much more enjoyable season for Sheffield Wednesday if the owner and the manager were heading in the right direction on the same page, but that's not ended up being the case. And yeah, unfortunately Sheffield Wednesday's season unravelled very quickly from basically the second half of the season onwards. This video is brought to you by our good friends at SBK. If you haven't heard of them yet, then where have you been? SBK's comprehensive range of markets and exclusive offers makes it the best place to bet on the championship this season. Whether you're creating an accumulator or customising your bet builder, SBK has got you covered. Don't believe us? Sign up today and find out. We'll move on to the next three now, and these are the three teams we expect to finish outside of the playoffs this season, and oh boy, yeah, this is one of our worst predictions from a pre-season. Sheffield United in 9th. We also have Bristol City 8th and Norwich 7th. Yeah, Sheffield United really made us look like mugs. Chris Wilder made us look like mugs, which is why I still think, even though they have now missed out on automatic promotion, the job he's done this season has been ridiculous. The thing that we had in our minds heading into this season was just how poor they were in the Premier League. You know, turning that around after being so crap was going to be a massive, massive job, and I just didn't think they'd be able to do it this quickly into the season, or as rapidly as Chris Wilder did. Basically, as soon as the season started, there were also things like the points deduction that they had. I know it was only 2 points, but still counts towards something. And the ownership issues with the club as well. I just thought there were a lot of issues, and it's ended up being anything but. And that goes to show how ridiculous a job Chris Wilder has done. I think things like this are a good reminder of how good a job he's done this season, even though they have missed out on promotion in the end. So, well done, Chris Wilder. You made us look very, very daft there. Bristol City 8th. We had them down as our dark horses at the start of the season, and here they are. They've managed to finish in the top 6. Well, as things stand, it looks like they're going to finish in the top 6. So 8th wasn't a bad shout from us, considering that was somewhat better than I imagine a lot of people did. Bristol City have been the perennial mid-tablers for a long time now. We thought they would go better than that, and they've ended up going even better than what we thought. So well done to them on that. Norwich in 7th, yeah. Bit of an underachievement, really, for Norwich this. At the start of the season, I was looking at it like, oh, here's a new era with Norwich with the new manager. Of course, they lost the likes of Gabriel Sara and Johnny Rowe and what have you, but I still thought Boy Saines, Josh Sargent, that would be enough for them to have another crack at the playoffs this season. They made some new signings as well, spent a lot of money in the summer, and it's ended up not ending up anything like I expected, really. That's why I've said on multiple occasions I think Norwich have been the second biggest underachievers this season, behind obviously Luton. So yeah, a bit of a disappointing one with Norwich. Not one of our worst predictions by any means, but yeah, they've definitely underwhelmed. We'll move on to our next three now, which is 4th to 6th, where we had Sunderland in 6th, Middlesbrough in 5th, and Burnley in 4th. We'll start with Sunderland, which has actually ended up being one of our best predictions in this table, because it may seem strange now, looking back at it in hindsight, but at the start of the season, many people were not fancying Sunderland to finish in the top 6. I think if you go back and have a look for yourself, you'd be surprised at how few people had Sunderland even finishing in the top half. I think a lot of people had a lot of scepticism about the direction the club was going in, especially after how terrible the end of last season was for them. But I thought with Sunderland, it was either going to be a great season under Regis Lebris or a poor season, and I was more inclined to go with great season because I just looked at some of the players they still had, and I thought this is still a very, very talented squad, and fortunately enough it's ended up being that, and they've actually gone better than we expected. So well done, Sunderland. We had your back since the start, and it looks like it's gone well in the end for them. So playoff place secured. That's a great result for them. Middlesbrough could still get a playoff place in the final 2 games of the season, but that is looking unlikely now. It's not a particularly bad shout from us having them 5th. I think a lot of people had them to finish in the top 6, and it may not end up being that way, which will be a big underachievement really for Middlesbrough, because this will be another season where they've missed out on the top 6 despite spending a lot of money along the way. So yeah, a bit of a poor one for them. And then Burnley in 4th, where I think a lot of Burnley fans may look at that and go, ha ha ha, you underestimated us at the start of the season. Yeah, I always thought with Scott Parker they would be this would be the lowest position they could possibly finish. I never expected them to finish any lower than 4th. I just thought that there'd be a lot of turnover in the squad, and I was still a bit not completely sold on Scott Parker as a manager. Well, less said about that, the better. But yeah, they have obviously got it over the line in the end, so well done to them on that. And finally, our top 3. Yeah. We had Leeds United 3rd, Coventry City 2nd, Luton Town 1st. Yeah, not great. We'll start with Leeds in 3rd. Leeds are probably the biggest example of us looking at their squad and still having a few weeks left of the transfer window, and that really doing us over. Because at the time, Leeds had just sold Crescencio Somerville, Jorginho Ruta, Archie Gray. And at the time, they hadn't signed Manor Solomon, Larger Ramazani. And we still thought Willie Gnonto may leave as well. So you're looking at that squad and you were thinking, they would have to do pretty well in the final few weeks of the transfer window for them to be going up automatically. And they did, in the end. I was wondering if there may be a bit of a hangover from losing in the playoffs the season before. That obviously didn't happen in the end either. And they got promotion over the line in the end. It was always a bit of a bold call from us not to have Leeds in the top 2, and it didn't work out for us. That's just how it goes. But well done to them. And yeah, we'll see how they get on in the Premier League. Coventry 2nd. Yeah. I have always been a big fan of Coventry's squad. I think there's so much talent there. And what ultimately done us over was Mark Robins and the start they had to the season. Of course, Coventry had a terrible start, and that all seemed to centre around Mark Robins falling out with his long-time assistant manager, Adi Vivesh. And here we are, where they could get a playoff place. Well, I mean, it's looking likely they will get a playoff place. So it's not completely outrageous from us. I just wonder whether if they didn't have that bad start at the start of the season, then maybe they would have been competing for automatic promotion. Of course, Lampard's got them back on track in terms of the top 6 picture. But yeah, I always thought Coventry should be competing maybe slightly higher than that, because they've managed to salvage a top 6 place, but really they shouldn't have had that bad start and should have comfortably got a top 6 place and maybe even looked even higher than that. So who knows with that. And then yeah, Luton Town. Oh, dearie me. I just thought at the start of the season, Luton, being as smartly run a club as they are, the fact that they were probably the best of the bunch in the Premier League the season before, that they would come down and be able to bounce back straight away. And we all know that didn't end up going to plan. Rob Edwards as well. At the time, I would have rated him as probably the best manager in the league. It's not gone to plan either. Yeah, a lot of things have just gone wrong for Luton this season, as we've covered on plenty of times on the podcast, on YouTube videos that I've put out covering Luton. Yeah, this season's just been an absolute mess, and it may very well end up in them getting relegated, which I don't think anyone saw coming. I don't think anyone, from my memory, had them to finish outside of the top 6. So I don't think it's completely ridiculous that we ever had Luton getting automatically promoted, but obviously in hindsight it looks really, really bad on us. But yeah, we can't get them right all the time, so yeah, Luton have really made us look silly this season, so cheers for that, Luton fans. But yeah, that's just how it goes, and that's how unpredictable the bloody Championship is, isn't it? So there we have it, ladies and gents. This has been a very painful look at how our pre-season predictions did for the Championship. To be fair, of course, there are some bad shouts in there, like Watford to get relegated, Blackburn to finish 20th, Luton, of course, to win the league, Sheffield United to finish 9th. Some really, really bad shouts in there, but by and large, we did get most of the teams right in kind of whereabouts they will finish this season. That's always going to be the case, where you're going to get 1, 2, 3 or 4 in our case very, very wrong. But by and large, we did nail more or less most of the teams. But yeah, Not our best season, I think we can say that much for sure, but you know, it's all a bit of fun at the end of the day to, you know, keep you guys entertained on how we think this season's gonna go, and hopefully we'll do a lot better next season. But yeah, this season sprung up a fair few surprises along the way, and it's really bitten us on the bottom. So there we have it. This has been me reacting to our league table predictions from the start of the season. Hey, you can say a lot about us, but at least we're open and transparent when it comes to something like this. Let me know in the comment section below how you did in your pre-season predictions. I'd be very interested to know how honest you all are about that. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe for more content like this. I've been Ryan Dilks from the Second Tier, and a big thank you for watching.